How do you feel about the term agentic or agent? In my work in this domain, I've definitely found it to be very broadly used. I'll admit to having a little bit of an allergy to hearing it used sometimes because
Sure.
it's often used for particularly kind of upselling specific kinds of technology where I'm like, this is just a daemon. This is just something that's
Yeah.
running in the background. Where is that one appropriate for use? What do you think makes something agentic?
Yeah, that's a tough one too. Agentic to me is multiple steps in a process that are being solved by AI. If it requires coordination between different tools, individual tools that can be built with AI, then that kind of meets the definition of agentic to me. Anything that you can describe as, well, this can be broken down into what human agents, not necessarily what they would do, but if it's appropriate to make that metaphor, like if you can describe, hey, there's the concierge that hands the task off to the data analyst, that hands the task off to the database administrator that can go and grab the data and pass it back to the data analyst to analyze that data, et cetera, right? Like when you start describing things in those terms, you're definitely playing in the agentic space at that point in time.
But are there cases where you feel like successful implementations of something that you feel have been really and truly agentic that have kind of like shocked you?
Yes, and I'll go further and say that I think that when you start to think about things in an agentic framework, it can be quite clarifying. I'll give you an example. When you start to break down a very complex workflow into what are the specific tasks that need to be done in that workflow, what are the LLM tools that I would need to build in order to achieve those tasks, and there's two components there, right? There's the LLM that's able to manage complexity or vagueness or decision making, anything that's kind of fuzzy on that side of things. And then there's tools which are repeatable. They are deterministic. They return the same thing in a predictable way, right? So you have an LLM using tools to perform a task. I think sometimes if you think about things that way, the design becomes a little more obvious up front, and you don't run into some problems later on down the road where you realize you're actually using an LLM to do something that you need a deterministic function to do, and you have too many agents where one agent could perform multiple tasks, that type of thing. So I do think it can be quite clarifying. And yeah, I think that there's some things that very clearly fit the definition of an agentic workflow, and some things that are definitely blurring the line.